Now I have another speech to give. And it's a short one, because what I'm going to say is we are welcoming a great friend to Ohio, the former Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Now once I was downhearted, disappointment was my closest friend. But then you came and he soon departed, and you know he never showed his face again. That's why your love keeps on lifting high.
My name is hey Marcy, how are you? My name is Joe Biden. I have been in 22 states for 60 candidates, 11 cities in the last 4 days. And the reason I'm telling you that is I wanted to get my voice so I could sound like Sherrod Brown. I'm getting close.
Welcome, Mr. President.
Folks, I'm proud to be here with, I met all the guys in the back, all the labor leaders. And as my grandfather Finnegan would say, my being from Scranton, he'd say, Joey, you're labor from belt buckle to shoe sole. And I am, and one of my favorite leaders of all, first outfit to ever endorse me as a 29-year-old kid running for the Senate, was Leo Gerard and the Steelworkers. I want to say thank you. And your state AFL-CIO and all the elected officials. But I also want to say that I've served in the Senate a long time, and I've served with a lot of senators. But I've never served with a man with more principle, character, integrity than Sherrod Brown. And I want to shout out to my soulmate, Marcy Kaptur. I love you, Marcy. I'm going to embarrass her, but I know she loves me as much as I love her. You're the best, Marcy. Thank you. Folks, I'm here to talk about Rich and Betty and the entire ticket. So, folks, Tuesday's almost here, and you all know in your gut that there's something different about this year's election. It's bigger than politics. This is the most important off-year election that any one of you will have ever voted in, and that's not hyperbole. The very character of our country is on the ballot on Tuesday. It really is. Hey, Don, how are you? And folks, it's not just Americans are looking. I'm not joking about this. The world's looking. No, they really are. I do more foreign policy work than about anybody that's still around. I've done it my whole life. I've recently been to Europe meeting with a number of world leaders, asking to meet with me, wanting me to explain what's going on. Not a joke. Not a joke. Because they know America losing its influence means they are in trouble. And so, folks, all the world's looking. You know, we're the most unique nation in the world. That's not just being a proud American. It's true. Because we were not organized based on our ethnicity, our religion, or tribe. America, mean this literally, not figuratively, constitutionally. America is organized on an idea. We're organized around an idea. And the idea was that we'd be the first nation in the world to define ourselves based on our shared values. The American ideals, fairness, decency, respect, equality for everyone because they're children of God. Everyone. You know, I know you all learned it in grade school and high school, and we all kind of think it's corny till today maybe. We hold these truths self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Folks, that's what's under attack. And it's time for us to stand up for these American ideals. It's time for, as the conservative columnist George Will and others have said, it's time to stand up for the American story. No, I really mean it. I know you think this sounds, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart. The American story. It's the only way the powerful and those who are entitled, who abuse their power for personal gain can succeed if they have us walk away from these fundamental values. That's why they're trying so hard to divide us, pitting one group of people against another. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in a situation where unless we can put this back together again, everything we talk about is in jeopardy. Folks, the very powerful, as Barack alluded to yesterday, and my friends have heard me saying the last month and a half, are trying to convince us that treating and speaking of people with dignity and respect is an outdated form of political correctness. No, Trump's actually saying things like to use profanity, to talk about people and nations in degrading terms. He said, all I'm doing is I'm not going to abide by political correctness. That's like saying, I'm not going to tell my mother I love her and kiss her because I'm going to make fun of her because I don't go for political correctness. What are we doing here, folks? The idea, they're trying to convince us that treating people, saying that committing to something bigger than ourselves is naive liberalism. We talk about obligations to other people. Well, that's what naive liberals do. This America first. You first. Think of yourself only. I mean it. Think of what's being said. And our kids are listening, guys. Our kids are listening. And the newest one is, if you saw the president and his defenders' latest explanation, did you hear him trying to explain honesty? No. I'm not joking. He was on the air saying, well, honesty is, maybe they're trying to convince us that honesty is relative, depending on where you stand. Truth is truth. Truth is truth. Honesty is honesty. But look at it, guys. Don't take this not seriously. Well, thank you, but take this seriously. Take this seriously. The only way they can maintain power is if they convince us that these basic American ideals don't matter very much. As George Will says, that creates an open space for them to abuse power. Folks, honesty is not relative. And you got to ask yourself, what is it that built this nation, made us the greatest nation in the history of the world? That's not just being a proud American, it's a fact. America was built by leaders, Republican and Democrat, who had integrity. It was built by those who were decent human beings and had empathy. Leaders like our military, who left nobody behind. It wasn't automatic, you just leave a whole group of people behind. And leaders who gave hate no safe harbor. Folks, David Brooks The conservative columnist, and I'm going to conservatives to make the point, the conservative columnist says these ideals make up what he calls the invisible fabric that holds society together. And he says, no, listen please. And he says they're being shredded. They're being shredded, deliberately being shredded for a purpose. I wrote a year ago after the horrific events in Charlottesville, and I as a kid come out of the civil rights movement. My state was segregated by law. But I wrote after Charlottesville in a large piece in the Atlantic magazine that we're in a battle for America's soul. And listen to me just a second. As we watched neo-Nazis carrying swastikas, coming out from under rocks and out of dark fields, literally, carrying torches, chanting the same anti-Semitic bile that was chanted in Nuremberg, Munich, Berlin in the 30s. You probably don't know that. If you go back and listen, the same exact chants, accompanied by David Dukes of the Ku Klux Klan, and then confronted by decent Americans in this historic city. And what happened? The President of the United States of America assigned a moral equivalence between those dark forces and those opposing them. I think he understands it, but we should understand it. That encourages hate to continue to grow. It gives every part of the seamier side of society to say it's okay to come out from under those rocks and do and say things that under any Republican or Democratic president before, we could never do it. Say, I mean this sincerely. And our children are listening. And if you wonder whether they are, I suggest to you the American Psychological Society goes out and does a survey on the health of America every single year and stress in America. The report came out in every national newspaper. It's probably in the Plain Dealer. And it talks about the following. It talks about Generation Z, as in zebra. There's people 15 to 19. He said they have the highest stress level of any generation in modern American history, and higher than anyone else. 92% of that generation on this year-long survey point out the following, that they have symptoms of anxiety, depression, loss of sense of their self. Don't tell me they're not listening. Don't tell me this doesn't have an effect on them. They're watching. And the words of our leaders matter. Silence is complicity. We must not remain silent. We cannot be complicitous. And as Democrats, we have an urgent responsibility to confront and defeat these forces of privilege trying to divide us for only one reason, so they can continue to be greedy and have their own way. For the sake of our children, we have to take back the power from them and finish, quite frankly, what Barack and I started, to restore the basic, I'm not looking for applause, to restore the basic economic bargain that used to exist. We spent the first 6 years just trying to figure out how we could keep our head above water. Everything landed on Barack's desk but locusts. No, I'm serious. I got criticized for saying this is the most significant recession in American history. And it was the most damaging recession short of a depression. But there used to be a bargain. The bargain was that Democrats and Republicans used to subscribe to. And that bargain built the middle class. And here's what it said. It said, by the way, now I know how my priest feels when there's children in the audience. That's okay. I'm used to kids. I said that when you contribute to the success, it said when you contribute to the success of an enterprise, you got to share in the benefits. If the enterprise you work for did really, really well, you should do well. That bargain's been broken. I know they call me middle class Joe. It's not meant as a compliment. It's meant I'm not sophisticated. But I know why we're who we are. When the middle class does well, the wealthy do very well. And the poor have some hope. And folks, the folks of Cleveland understand what the folks of Wilmington, my hometown, and Scranton, every other place understand. And that is that middle class is not a number. The economists who work for me will tell you middle class means $52,250 or $53,000. Middle class is a value set. It's being able to own your own home and not have to rent it. It means being able to send your kid to a safe park, knowing they'll come home safely. It means they can send them to a local high school. If they do well, they can go on beyond high school. Because 6 out of 10 jobs by 2020 require something beyond high school. It's about being able to take your geriatric mom home when your dad dies and hope you never have to have your children take care of you. Folks, there's ways to restore this bargain, and we started, and it was happening. The first thing is access to a good job. My dad had a saying. He'd say to every time we moved from Scranton because there was no work, we lived with my grandpa for a year while my dad could get settled in Delaware. And when he did, and was able to bring us down a year later, every time someone would lose a job in our family or the neighborhood, he said, Joe, remember, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about your place in the community. It's about your sense of self-worth. Joey, it's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Think of the people you grew up with who can't say that now. And there's no reason it has to be that way. And the way they restore this bargain is, first of all, it starts with going after those who have been eviscerating labor and restoring labor's prominence. It means eliminating non-compete clauses that 40% of the American workers are going to have to sign out for all hourly workers. You might need a non-compete clause. I buy a Buick agency, you won't go and build another one next door. I get that. But when you work for Jimmy John's and you have to sign a non-compete agency so you don't walk across town and get 10 cents more working at McDonald's, that's wrong. Hourly wages. You're supposed to be able to earn overtime. Last year, $1.4 billion was denied ordinary people because they were reclassified as management. So the first thing is put people in a better position to bargain for themselves, individually and collectively. The second thing is we need access to affordable and continuing education. We need to reimagine the American education system for the 21st century. You all know in your gut, in 2020 and 2030, 12 years is not enough to be in the middle class. So we have to look at everything from early education through post-high school, including specialized certificates, apprenticeships, community colleges. Thirdly, it's hard to live a middle-class life without the, how can I say it, the mental surety that you can provide for the health care of your family. Millions of Americans now understand what the Affordable Care Act meant to them. It saved many lives. I give you my word, and you've been with me when this happened. I haven't been anywhere, and this is before I started campaigning, anywhere where someone doesn't come up to me and say, thank you. The Affordable Care Act saved my life, saved my mother's life. It's about peace of mind as well. It means you don't have to stare at the ceiling at night, like many of you women and men who are heads of household have had to do, like my dad did, and think, if I get cancer, we lose everything. We lose everything. It's the biggest reason for bankruptcy in America, healthcare costs. Sharon and Rich, opponents, both of them, oppose the Affordable Care Act, even though they are not engaging in full disclosure now. By the way, that's why so many rural hospitals have shut down in Ohio, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Texas. These guys oppose keeping your children on your health care policy till they're 26 and can get a job. And unbelievable as it seems, they don't think insurance companies should be able to cover pre-existing conditions. They say it's unconstitutional. Your opponent went out and said, was part of a suit to strip on a constitutional basis that insurance companies don't have to cover pre-existing conditions. That's 4.8 million people in Ohio. Just Ohio. 4.8 million of you. And unless you make a really good living and are prepared to pay a lot more for private insurance, you cannot get covered. You cannot get covered. But these Republicans are going well beyond stripping insurance coverage. I've been talking to these guys about this for a while. For people with pre-existing conditions. Their real target is to eviscerate the two most important programs that allow our elderly and retired to live in decency. Medicare and Social Security. Now, Democrats always say, and they say, that's just a tool we use. We always try to scare people by saying Republicans want to cut Social Security and Medicare. This is the fourth pillar of restoring the middle class. Folks, reestablishing the basic bargain means they've been working to eviscerate Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security benefits. And they've been trying to cut these programs for years. And now because of their horrendous tax bill, it's so unfair. But it created an additional deficit, listen to this now, of $1.9 trillion above the deficit we have now. You will not find a single economist in any great Ohio university who will tell you we can sustain that deficit without reaping economic devastation over the next 10 years. So, what have they said? In case you think I'm exaggerating, the leader of the House Budget Committee that proposes the budget has already laid down a marker proposing to cut, it's in writing, over $500 billion. I think it's 560, but I want to be precise. Over $500 billion, $500 billion in Medicare. It's on the books. We lose. We don't win back the House. I promise you. I promise you. You're going to see a cut. And then explain that to your mom and dad. Go out and explain it to them. In addition to that, Senator McConnell, in a burst of honesty, well, at least he was honest. Here's what he said, just as the Senate went out. He said that in order to deal with this deficit that they created, they're going to have to be more cuts in Medicare and Social Security. Mark my words. You remember nothing else I said. If somehow they pull off a miracle and they keep the House, watch what happens and the effect that will have on the lives of so many people. My dad would call that the abuse of power. Folks, let me get out of your hair here by sparing you from my raspy voice. Well, thank you. So, folks, if you ask, let's take care of 2018 first. Look, if you have to, you know, we Catholics have an expression we learned in Catholic grade school: examine your conscience. They say, especially before you go to confession. Well, examine your conscience before you go to the voting booth. Here's the deal, guys. think of the one reason that made you, and I hope there are some Republicans here, but think of the one reason that made you Democrats or mainline Republicans, is you can't stand the abuse of power. Whether it's a man raising his hand to a woman or a child, or the wealthy and the privileged taking advantage of everybody else. It's abuse of power. We as Democrats, no matter, and we're not pure, we have some idiots who are Democrats too. We have, I'm not claiming we're always right. But one of the things we have stood for is giving every American a fighting chance. Not even making the playing field level. Just don't make it so tilted. So it's so, no, because look, guys, the one thing about us, Marcy and I talk about this, is ordinary people can do extraordinary things given a chance. That's who built this country. Ordinary people, just given half a chance. But to do it, we have to reset the moral compass of this nation. And we do that on Tuesday. Look. As Rich knows, I'm an optimist. And people actually ask me, losing a wife and daughter, you're getting killed in an automobile accident, losing your son, all the stuff that's happened to you, how can you be an optimist? I'm an optimist. Because I know the history of the journey of the American people. Given half a chance, they've never let their country down. The truth is, today, I'm more optimistic than any time about America's future than when I got to the Senate as a 29-year-old kid. America is better positioned than any nation in the world to lead the world. We have the world's largest economy, the wealthiest nation on earth. We're energy independent. We have the strongest military, not hyperbole, in the history of the world. We have the finest research universities in the world. Every single thing from those cell phones to everything else that's been life-changing in the last 20 years has come out of a research university, not a corporation, a research university. And we have more in America than all the rest of the world combined. Name every famous laboratory. Go on Google, every famous laboratory that's doing mind-blowing work, and you'll find out they're not government laboratories. They're not company laboratories. They're research universities, and you own them. Some folks, we also have the most productive workers in the world. Fact. American workers are 3 times as productive as workers in Asia. We're the most agile venture capitalists in the world. No other nation, as they say in little steel town I moved to, is a patch on our genes. I know Xi Jinping as well as any world leader. I spent over 24 hours with him, sum total. Traveled 17,000 miles with him. He would change places in a heartbeat with the President of the United States. China not only doesn't have enough energy, they don't have enough water. Hear me now? They have a $500 billion project trying to figure out how to change the direction of one of their 2 major rivers. Somewhere between 30 and 40% of their arable land is polluted with cadmium. Turn on the television. Do you see anybody walking around Beijing without a mask on? They're dying at 4 times the rate we are in America of lung cancer. They'll have more cancer cases in the next decade than all the rest of the world combined. I don't think that's good. I think that's really bad. We can help. But folks, the idea that China's going to eat our lunch, give me a break. Give me a break. So, folks, the only thing strong enough to tear America apart is America. We've seen it start. And we've got to stop it now. Right now. That's what Tuesday's all about. So in conclusion, we Democrats have to make it clear who we are. We choose hope over fear. We choose unity over division. We choose our allies over our enemies. And we choose truth over lies. We can still own this country. We got to stick together. We got to move together. We got to show up and vote and remember who we are. This is the United States of America. There is nothing we cannot do. Not a single solitary thing beyond our capacity. God bless you all and may God protect our troops. Come on up, guys. All the candidates.
We take care.